Right now, as you watch this, over 100 wildfires are burning out of control across the western United States. Not small brush fires, not campfires that got away from someone. We are talking about walls of flame taller than 3-story buildings, racing across open land faster than a person can run. Some of these fires are creating their own thunderstorms, their own lightning. The fires are literally making weather. More than 6 million acres have burned so far this year. Let me help you understand how big that is. 6 million acres is roughly the size of the entire state of New Hampshire. Just gone. Scorched. Turned to ash. And here is the truly wild part. The year is not even close to over yet. Fire season runs through October, sometimes November. We are barely at the halfway point of the danger window, and we have already blown past every average by a mile. The federal government has done something it almost never does. It raised the national fire alert to level 5. That is the absolute highest it can go. There is no level 6. There is no secret emergency reserve waiting behind a glass door. Level 5 means every single federal firefighting crew, every helicopter, every air tanker, every bulldozer the government owns is already out there working right now. There is nothing left sitting in a garage waiting for a call. Every tool has been grabbed. Every truck is rolled out. Everything is deployed. Everything is spoken for. And it has been this way for almost 4 straight weeks. Close to 30,000 firefighters are on fire lines right now across the country. And it is still not enough. The United States has actually asked for help from other countries. Over 100 firefighters from Australia and New Zealand have flown across the entire Pacific Ocean to help fight fires in the American Northwest. Think about that. We are the richest and most powerful country on Earth, and we needed to call in help from the other side of the planet. That is how stretched thin we are. On top of that, 240 Army soldiers from Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State have been pulled off their normal military duties and sent into the fire zones. These are active duty soldiers who train to defend the country, and right now their mission is shoveling dirt and cutting fire lines in the mountains. 4 massive military C-130 cargo planes, the kind designed to carry tanks and troops, are being loaded with thousands of gallons of fire retardant and flown over burning forests in Oregon and California. 2 are flying out of Klamath Falls, Oregon, and 2 more out of Redding, California. That is the level of crisis we are in right now, and here is what really makes this scary. Some of the biggest fires on the map just a few days ago were not even close to the most dangerous ones. The truly terrifying fires are the ones that erupted overnight, the ones that went from a few hundred acres to tens of thousands of acres while most people slept. Fires that tripled in size between dinner and breakfast. Fires that forced entire towns to evacuate in the dark with almost no warning. Today, I'm going to break down everything that is happening across Nevada, Utah, and Wyoming. I'm going to show you how 2 separate fires near Reno merged into one monster blaze while a woman was arrested for allegedly starting one of them on purpose. I'm going to tell you about a fire in Utah that went from a spark near a popular camping lake to 13,000 acres in less than 48 hours. A fire that moved so fast, it triggered a false evacuation alert that scared people across multiple counties. And I'm going to explain how a broken wheel bearing on a trailer started the biggest wildfire Wyoming has seen all year. A fire that exploded from 0 to over 13,000 acres before anyone could do a single thing to stop it. This is not a news story you can scroll past. If you live anywhere in the western half of the United States, what I am about to tell you might actually save your life or the life of someone you love. And if you do not live there, you still need to understand what is happening to millions of Americans right now. Because this fire season is not slowing down. It is getting faster and more dangerous by the day. The fires that started last week are still growing. New ones are starting every single night. And the weather forecast shows no relief coming anytime soon. Let's get into it. Section 1. The West is maxed out. Before I take you to each state, you need to understand something about how wildfire fighting works in this country. Because once you get this, everything else I tell you will hit different. The United States has a system for fighting wildfires that works kind of like a national team. When a fire breaks out in, say, Oregon, the local firefighters attack it first. If they cannot handle it, they call for backup from their region. If the region cannot handle it, they call for national help. There are 5 levels of alert in this system. Level 1 means things are calm. Level 5 means the whole country is on fire and there is nothing left to send. We have been at level 5 since July 18th. That is almost a full month at the maximum alert level. To put that in context, in many fire seasons, the country never reaches level 5 at all. When it does, it usually lasts a few days, maybe a week. We are pushing 4 weeks straight at the highest possible alert. What does that actually mean for you if you live in fire country? It means if a new fire starts near your house today, the response might be slower than you expect. Not because firefighters do not care. They care more than you will ever know, but because those same firefighters are already out on another fire 200 miles away. The helicopter that would normally be flying to your neighborhood might be doing water drops over a blaze in Nevada. The air tanker that would usually be on standby at your local airstrip could be in Oregon right now. That is the reality of level 5. You are not getting the backup bench. The backup bench is already in the game. Now, let me tell you something about what these fires have burned so far. According to the National Interagency Fire Center, which is the main federal agency that tracks all of this, over 46,000 wildfires have been reported in 2026 so far. Those fires have burned more than 6.4 million acres. That number is 156% of the 10-year average, meaning this year we have already burned over 1.5 times more land than a typical year, and we are only in the middle of August. Fire season runs through October and sometimes into November. Experts at AccuWeather have predicted that by the time 2026 is over, as many as 8 million acres could burn across the country. If that happens, it would be one of the most destructive fire years in modern American history. And the weather is not helping, not even a little. A huge dome of high pressure has been sitting over the western states like a lid on a pot. It just parks there and bakes everything underneath it. Temperatures have been above normal for weeks. In some areas, they have been record-breaking. The air is so dry in many parts of Nevada, Utah, and Wyoming that by mid-afternoon, the relative humidity drops to 10 or 15%. Let me put that in terms that actually mean something. The Sahara Desert, the driest hot desert on the planet, averages about 25% humidity. Right now, parts of the American West are drier than the Sahara. Let that sink in. The open range outside of Reno is drier than the middle of North Africa. And then there are the thunderstorms, but not the kind you might be thinking of. These are what firefighters call dry thunderstorms. They are storms that produce lightning, but almost no rain. The clouds roll in. Lightning cracks down out of the sky and slams into the ground. It hits a dead tree. It hits dry grass. A new fire starts. But the rain that is supposed to come with a storm evaporates before it ever reaches the ground. The air is so dry that the water just vanishes midair. So the lightning starts fires, and the rain does not show up to put them out. It is like nature is walking across the landscape with a box of matches, lighting one after another and tossing them over its shoulder. These dry thunderstorms have been happening from the eastern Sierra all the way through Idaho and into Wyoming. Every one of those lightning strikes is a potential new wildfire. And remember, there is no backup bench anymore. Everything is already deployed. If a new fire starts from one of these storms, the crews that respond might be coming from a fire they just left, or they might not come at all for hours. So that is the big picture. The country is tapped out. The weather is making things worse, and the fires just keep coming. Now let me take you state by state, starting with the one that has the most alarming situation right now. Before we get there, if you want to stay on top of this wildfire season as things keep changing, hit that subscribe button. I'm putting out updates every single day while this crisis is active. New fires are starting overnight. Evacuation zones are shifting by the hour. The only way to keep up is to have these updates showing up in your feed. Subscribe right now so you do not miss what comes next. Because things are moving fast, and tomorrow's update could be the one that matters most to you. Section 2, Nevada's triple nightmare. Let me tell you what happened near Reno, Nevada, because what went down over the past week is the kind of thing that keeps fire officials awake at night. It started on Saturday, August 8th, near a place called Hallelujah Junction, along Highway 395, close to the California border. A fire broke out in the dry brush and grass. Within hours, it had a name, the bug fire, and it was already eating through the landscape north of Reno. By Saturday night, the bug fire had grown to 6,500 acres. By Sunday night, it had doubled to over 11,000 acres, and then something happened that made things much, much worse. A second fire started. This one was called the Fred Mountain Fire, and it popped up just to the east of the bug fire. And here is where the story takes a dark turn. The Fred Mountain Fire was not started by lightning. It was not caused by a downed power line. Authorities say a 47-year-old woman named Christine Mitchell walked up to firefighters and told them she started the fire. She was arrested and charged with arson. While two separate fires were burning out of control near a city of more than 250,000 people, and while firefighters were risking their lives on the line, someone allegedly decided to start another one on purpose. By Monday morning, the bug fire had grown past 15,000 acres. The Fred Mountain Fire was around 1,400 acres, and they were getting closer to each other. Fire officials knew what was coming. When two fires get close enough, when the heat and wind push their edges together, they merge. They stop being two problems and become one very big problem. That merge happened on Tuesday morning. The bug fire and the Fred Mountain Fire burned into each other and became a single blaze. The combined footprint when they joined was about 44,000 acres, only 4% contained. But the nightmare was not over. Because while everyone was focused on the bug fire and Fred Mountain Fire merging, a third fire exploded out of nowhere. The Stallion Fire started near Pyramid Lake, south and east of the other fires. It went from about 1,000 acres to over 20,000 acres in a single night. So now the Reno area was dealing with 3 fires. The bug fire that had swallowed the Fred Mountain Fire and was now over 44,000 acres, and the Stallion Fire that had just blown up to 20,000 acres overnight. Together, that is more than 64,000 acres of land on fire within about 30 miles of the city of Reno. And within days, it got even worse. The bug fire alone grew to over 70,000 acres by Wednesday, and the Stallion Fire pushed past 33,000 acres. Both were at 0% containment. Think about that for a second. Over 100,000 acres of fire burning near a major American city. 0% contained. That means firefighters had not been able to draw a single reliable line around any part of the fire that they could guarantee would hold. The evacuation numbers tell the story. Around 13,000 Reno area residents have been forced to leave their homes. Thousands more are in evacuation warning zones, meaning they have been told to pack their cars, keep their keys by the door, and be ready to drive away at a moment's notice. The governor of Nevada declared a state of emergency. FEMA approved special grants to help pay for the firefighting effort. The Nevada Army National Guard sent up Chinook and Black Hawk helicopters to drop water on the fires. Schools closed, roads shut down. The Reno Sparks Indian Colony declared its own emergency as fires threatened tribal land and community buildings. And here is one detail that really shows you what this looks like on the ground. The Livestock Evacuation Center at the Reno Sparks Livestock Event Center had more than 150 large animals, horses, cows, goats, brought in by people fleeing the fire. People loaded their animals onto trailers in the dark, drove through smoke so thick they could barely see the road, and headed for the nearest safe place they could find. Hotels in nearby Sparks started offering rooms to evacuees for $49 a night and waiving all extra fees. That sounds like a small thing, but when you have just driven away from your house, not knowing if it will still be standing when you get back, a cheap hotel room with no hidden charges might be the kindest thing anyone does for you that week. Now, here is what makes the Nevada situation so tricky going forward. The fires are burning through a mix of sagebrush, dry grass, and pinyon juniper woodland. This kind of fuel burns fast and hot. Unlike a deep forest fire where flames have to climb slowly up through tall, thick trees, a brush fire moves across the ground like a wave rolling across an ocean. Wind pushes it, and it just runs. It does not stop to think. It does not take a break. In the afternoon, when temperatures spike past 95 degrees and dry winds pick up, these fires can move faster than you might think possible. There have been reports of fire fronts in this kind of fuel moving at 10 to 15 miles per hour. That is faster than most people can run. And the terrain around Reno is not flat. If you have ever driven through northern Nevada, you know it is full of canyons and ridges and valleys and draws. Fire does not behave the same way on a slope as it does on flat ground. It moves faster uphill because the heat rises and preheats the fuel above it. It creates its own wind currents. In the right conditions, it can throw burning embers hundreds of yards ahead of the main fire line. Those embers land in dry brush, start a new fire, and suddenly you have flames behind you and in front of you at the same time. The hills around the North Valleys area where these fires are burning create natural wind tunnels that push flames in unpredictable directions. Firefighters can build a perfect line on one side of a canyon and then watch the wind shift and push the fire around the other side. It is like trying to stop water from running downhill. You can slow it down, you can redirect it, but you cannot always control it. And that is why over 13,000 people have been evacuated, because fire officials are not willing to gamble with human lives on whether the wind will cooperate. This is an ongoing emergency. If you are in Washoe County, Nevada, or anywhere near the Reno Sparks area, you should be checking the evacuation map at perimetermap.com every few hours. Zones are changing throughout the day, but Nevada is not the only state in trouble right now, and what is happening in Utah might actually be even more concerning from a fire behavior standpoint. Section 3, Utah's burning season. Like never before. Utah has been dealing with wildfires all summer, but things crossed into a new level of danger this past week. 3 major fires are burning at the same time, and 2 of them caught officials off guard with how fast they grew. Let me start with the Rocky Canyon fire, because this one went from bad to terrifying in less than 2 days. On Friday evening, August 8th, a fire broke out near East Canyon Reservoir in Morgan County. This is a beautiful area of northern Utah, about an hour northeast of Salt Lake City. People camp there. They boat on the reservoir. Families go there for weekend getaways. On Friday evening, it was where a wildfire decided to make its home. When the fire was first reported, it was small, a few hundred acres. Firefighters moved in, helicopters started scooping water from the reservoir and dropping it on the flames. By Saturday morning, it had grown to about 600 acres, and crews were starting to get a handle on it. Then the wind shifted. Strong gusts came from the southwest and pushed the fire in a direction no one wanted. The flames jumped Highway 65. They crossed from Morgan County into Summit County. And once they crossed that highway, they had fresh fuel in front of them, fuel that had not seen rain in weeks. The fire took off. By Saturday evening, it had grown past 2,000 acres. By Sunday evening, it had exploded to over 13,000 acres. 0% contained. That is not a typo. In about 48 hours, this fire went from something firefighters thought they could control to something that was controlling them. The town of Hennifer was directly in the path. Evacuation orders went out fast. Residents west of Main Street between East Canyon Road and South Hennifer Road were told to leave immediately. A shelter opened at the local church in nearby Colville. People grabbed what they could and drove out through smoke-filled roads. And then something happened that caused total chaos across multiple Utah counties. A mass evacuation alert went out that was supposed to only cover a small area near the fire. Instead, it went out to people across most of Summit County and even into other counties. Phones buzzed all over northern Utah. People who were nowhere near the fire suddenly thought they were being told to evacuate. Officials had to scramble to put out a second message telling people to disregard the alert unless they were in the actual evacuation zone. Now imagine you are sitting in your living room 50 miles from this fire. You are watching the news. Maybe you have heard about the Rocky Canyon fire, but it seems far away. Then your phone screams at you, that loud, harsh emergency tone that makes your stomach drop. You look at the screen. It says, evacuate. Your kids start crying because that sound scared them. Your spouse starts pulling shoes on. You grab your wallet and start looking for the car keys. Your heart is hammering. You're trying to remember where you put the insurance papers. Then 20 minutes later, another message comes through. Never mind, that was a mistake. You're not in the evacuation zone. You can stay. Sorry for the confusion. That is what happened to thousands of Utah residents on Sunday. Counties across the state had to scramble to send out corrections. Social media exploded with people asking if the alert was real. Some people had already loaded their cars and started driving. Others were calling 911 to ask what was going on, which clogged up emergency lines at the worst possible time. One wrong button press caused a chain reaction of fear and confusion across half a state. Meanwhile, the fire kept growing. By Tuesday, more accurate mapping put the Rocky Canyon fire at 13,601 acres. Finally, some good news arrived. Overnight winds shifted direction and actually pushed the fire back on itself. It started burning into areas that had already burned, which meant there was less fuel. Containment jumped to 23%. By Wednesday, it reached 29%, and the fire had been mapped at about 15,600 acres. No structures had been lost, which is remarkable, given how fast this fire moved. But the Rocky Canyon fire was not Utah's biggest problem. That title belongs to the Widemouth 2 fire in Fish Lake National Forest. The Widemouth 2 fire has been burning since earlier in the summer and has now consumed over 122,000 acres. It is located in central Utah, southwest of the town of Richfield. While containment improved to around 30%, this fire is still showing dangerous behavior. Flames are still making runs through the treetops. Embers are still flying long distances and starting spot fires ahead of the main blaze. And this fire comes with a tragic story. 2 pilots were killed when their firefighting helicopter went down during operations on this fire. 2 people who woke up that morning planning to help save the land lost their lives doing it. 877 firefighters are still assigned to this fire, and several highways and forest roads remain closed throughout the area. There is also the Black Canyon fire burning near Price in the Manti La Sal National Forest. It is smaller at about 3,500 acres, but it is 0% contained and forcing evacuations in parts of San Pete and Emery counties. In response to all of this, Utah has issued a statewide fire restriction at the highest level. No open burning of any kind is allowed anywhere in the state. No campfires, no fireworks, no burning trash, nothing. That might sound strict, but when you look at what is happening across Utah's mountains and forest right now, it makes perfect sense. Fire officials have also noted something that should worry anyone living in the rural West. The conditions near Hennifer, where the Rocky Canyon fire exploded, are very similar to the conditions that allowed the Widemouth 2 fire to grow to the monster size that it is today. Same dry fuel, same low humidity, same wind patterns. When officials start comparing a new fire to a fire that has already burned 122,000 acres, that is a sign that things could get much worse very quickly. And Utah is not the end of the story, because while Nevada and Utah were dealing with their fire emergencies, something erupted in Wyoming that nobody saw coming. Section 4, Wyoming's overnight explosion. Wyoming had been relatively lucky this fire season. While its neighbors to the west were breaking records and fighting off massive blazes, Wyoming had managed to avoid any truly large fires. The state had some smaller ones earlier in the summer, but nothing that grabbed national attention. That changed on Sunday, August 9th, in a way that was almost hard to believe. It started with a trailer. Someone was driving along Highway 28 near South Pass, about 13 miles southeast of the town of Lander in Fremont County. A wheel bearing on the trailer they were towing overheated. Sparks flew. The Those sparks landed in bone-dry sagebrush, and within 1 hour, a fire that would soon become the largest in Wyoming all year was off and running. The Wildfire, named after a nearby hill, went from nothing to 200 acres in under 60 minutes. By that evening, it was approaching 4,000 acres. By Monday morning, it had exploded past 10,000 acres. By Monday afternoon, it hit 13,350 acres with 0% containment. It had become Wyoming's biggest wildfire of 2026 in less than 24 hours. Fire officials described what happened as extreme fire behavior. That is a specific term that firefighters use when a fire is doing things that make it almost impossible to fight directly. Running through the brush like a freight train, throwing embers hundreds of yards ahead, creating its own weather, literally generating its own wind and clouds from the sheer heat of the blaze. The fire was burning through sagebrush and grasslands at the foothills of the Wind River Range. This is wide open country. There are not a lot of natural barriers to stop a fire out here. No rivers wide enough to block it, no roads big enough to serve as fire breaks, just miles and miles of dry, brown fuel ready to burn. Evacuation orders went out for people living in the Twin Creek drainage area east of Highway 28. Residents were told to leave immediately. Highway 28 through South Pass was shut down completely. Do not try to drive through there. It is closed, and driving toward a wildfire is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Fire engines from across Fremont County swarmed the area. Lander, Hudson, Jeffrey City, and multiple volunteer fire battalions all sent crews. The Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Forest Service, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs all sent engines too. The state even pulled its brand new lander-based wildland firefighting team off another fire, the 443-acre Bear Fire in the Wyoming range, and sent them to fight the Weiser Knoll blaze instead. By Tuesday, over 200 firefighters were on scene, up from about 85 the day before, and the fire kept growing. By Wednesday, it was mapped at around 6,500 acres. But there was finally a sliver of good news. Containment had climbed to 30%. Crews had managed to get lines around some sections of the fire's edge, and rain was forecast for later in the week. But Wyoming was not done with surprises. Because while the Weiser Knoll fire was making headlines, a second fire erupted in Converse County near the town of Douglas. The Cold Springs fire started Monday evening near Cold Springs Road and Spring Canyon Road, about 7 miles southwest of Douglas. It was fueled by the exact same recipe that has powered every other disaster fire this summer. Dry grass that had been baking in record heat all summer, afternoon temperatures well above normal, and strong, steady wind that pushed the flames forward like someone blowing on a candle, except the candle was the size of a ranch. This fire moved fast, scary fast. It raced through ranches and rural subdivisions west of the city, jumping from grassland to fences to outbuildings to homes. Police officers and sheriff's deputies went door to door in the fading daylight, pounding on doors, yelling through windows, telling people they had to leave right now. Not in an hour, not after you load the truck. Right now. Hundreds of residents evacuated Monday night as the fire pushed toward their homes, driving away with whatever they had managed to grab in those frantic minutes. Multiple structures were reported on fire. Ranches that families had worked for generations were suddenly in the path of a wall of flame. The fire peaked at about 1,900 acres, but packed an enormous punch for its size. Several roads west of Douglas were closed, and Converse County issued mandatory evacuation orders for the affected rural areas. The Cold Springs fire burned hot and fast, but first responders from across the state jumped on it quickly. Within roughly 24 hours of being reported, crews had managed to knock it down and get it cold. That is an incredible turnaround, and it is a credit to the firefighters who dropped everything and raced to the scene. But here is the thing about Wyoming that should concern everyone living there. The state's fire risk is not going down. It is going up. According to the National Fire Outlook issued August 1st, Wyoming's fire potential is expected to stay above normal through September. The same conditions that turned a hot trailer wheel into a 16,000-acre fire are going to be in place for weeks. One spark in the wrong place could start the whole process over again. And Wyoming had mostly been lucky before this week. Other states have already been burning all summer. Utah has already broken its state record for wooded and forested acres burned. The massive 550,000-acre big grass fire has been burning across the Oregon-Idaho border for weeks. Washington State just experienced what officials are calling the most destructive wildfire in the state's history when fires ripped through the city of Spokane, destroying over 900 buildings and forcing 65,000 people to evacuate. One person was arrested for arson in connection with that fire as well. Think about what happened in Spokane for a minute. A fire, allegedly started by an arsonist, ripped through neighborhoods in a city of 230,000 people. It jumped from house to house. Entire blocks burned to the ground. When it was over, more than 900 buildings were damaged or destroyed. 65,000 people had been told to leave their homes. Spokane's mayor called it the worst natural disaster the region had ever faced. Residents described coming back to their neighborhoods and finding nothing but foundations and ash. One man said it looked like a war zone. That is what wildfire can do when it gets into an urban area. Wyoming watched all of that happen to its neighbors. And for weeks, people in Wyoming thought maybe this was not their year. Maybe the fires would stay in Oregon and Washington and Utah. Maybe they would be spared. The Wyoming Fire shattered that idea in about 12 hours. And now Wyoming is staring down the rest of August and all of September, knowing that their fire risk is not going down. It is expected to intensify. This brings us to the most important part of this entire video, because knowing what is happening is only useful if you also know what to do about it. Section 5, what you need to do right now. I know I just threw a lot of information at you, a lot of fire names and acre counts and county names, so let me boil all of it down to what actually matters if you live anywhere in the western United States. First, you need to know your evacuation level right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now before you go to bed tonight. There are 3 levels, and they are simple. Level 1 means be ready. There's a fire in your area, you might have to leave. Start thinking about what you would take with you. Level 2 means be set. The fire is getting closer. You need to have your car loaded, your important stuff packed, and your family ready to walk out the door in minutes. Level 3 means go now. Leave. Do not grab one more thing. Do not make one more phone call. Get in your car and drive to safety. Go to perimetermap.com right now and find your area. Type in your address, see what zone you're in. If you are in any fire-affected state, and especially if you are in Nevada, Utah, Oregon, Washington, or Wyoming, you need to check this map today. Second, prepare a go bag if you do not already have one. This is not some fancy survival kit from a catalog. It is a bag, a backpack, a duffel, whatever you have, that sits by your front door with the things you would be most upset about losing. Here is what should be in it. Your ID, your driver's license, your passport if you have one, any important papers like insurance documents, your lease or mortgage info, birth certificates, social security cards, your prescription medications, at least a week's supply if you can manage it, a phone charger and a portable battery pack, a change of clothes and a pair of shoes you can walk in, cash, real paper money, because ATMs do not work when the power is out, and credit card machines go down when cell towers are overloaded with traffic, a bottle of water and a few granola bars or snacks that do not need to be refrigerated. If you have kids, put a favorite small toy or comfort item in the bag. This sounds silly until you're driving through smoke at 2 a.m. with a scared child in the back seat. That stuffed animal might be the only thing keeping them calm. If you have pets, have their food, leash, and carriers near the door. If you wear glasses or contacts, pack a spare pair. You want to be able to grab this bag and walk out the door in under 2 minutes. Not 5 minutes, not 10. 2. Because when a fire is moving at the speed some of these fires have been moving, 2 minutes can be the difference between getting out safely and getting stuck on a road surrounded by smoke. Third, sign up for your county's emergency alert system. Every county in the fire-affected West has one. It sends alerts to your phone when evacuation levels change. Many of the people who got caught off guard by these fires this week were people who had never signed up for the alerts. They did not know the fire was near them until they could smell smoke. That is too late. Sign up today. Here are the key counties to watch right now. In Nevada, Washoe County. In Utah, Morgan County and Summit County for the Rocky Canyon Fire, and Millard and Sevier counties for the Widemouth 2 fire. In Wyoming, Fremont County for the Weiser Knoll Fire and Converse County for the Cold Springs Fire area. In Oregon, Malheur County for the Big Grass Fire and Klamath County for the Wrights Spring Fire. In Washington, Okanogan County for the Slaw Hiken Fire and Chelan County for the Little Giant Fire. Fourth, if you have large animals, you need a plan right now. Horses, cattle, goats, whatever you have. You need to know where you're going to take them if you have to leave. Trailers should be hooked up or ready to hook up quickly. Churchill County in Fallon, Nevada is offering free stalls for horses from evacuees. The Reno Sparks Livestock Events Center has been taking in large animals. Other counties have similar arrangements. Figure out yours before you need it. Fifth, pay attention to air quality. Even if you are not near a fire, the smoke from these fires is traveling hundreds of miles. It is affecting people in cities that are nowhere near the flames. If you have asthma or breathing problems, check the air quality index at fireairnow.gov. Stay indoors when it is bad. Keep your windows closed. If you have a portable air purifier, run it. Smoke from wildfires contains tiny particles that get deep into your lungs. It is not just unpleasant, it can make you sick, especially kids and older adults. Sixth, do not drive into fire areas unless you absolutely have to. Roads that serve as evacuation routes need to stay clear for people leaving. Every time someone drives toward a fire to take pictures or check on a friend's house, they are potentially blocking someone who is trying to escape. If a road is closed, there is a reason. Respect the closure. Find another way. Now let me address something that has come up in several of these fires this season, the role that people have played in starting them, because this is a pattern that is hard to ignore. The Fred Mountain fire near Reno was allegedly started by a woman who walked up to firefighters and confessed to setting it. She was arrested and charged with arson. The Old Trails fire in Spokane that destroyed over 700 buildings and forced 65,000 people from their homes also led to an arson arrest. A 37-year-old man was picked up and booked into the county jail. The Weiser Knoll fire in Wyoming started from a mechanical issue on a trailer, a Hot Wheel bearing throwing sparks into dry brush. The Rocky Canyon fire in Utah was also caused by humans, though the exact source is still under investigation. These are fires that did not have to happen. Every single one of them traces back to a human being, either through deliberate malice or through carelessness. When you add up what these human-caused fires have done, you are looking at hundreds of thousands of acres burned, hundreds of buildings destroyed, lives lost, and communities torn apart, all because of choices that people made. When you are outdoors in the West right now, you have to be incredibly careful. Check that your vehicle is not dragging chains. Make sure your trailer wheels are in good shape. Do not park on dry grass where a hot exhaust pipe can start a fire. Do not throw cigarettes out your car window. Do not shoot off fireworks. Do not have any kind of open flame. This might sound like a lecture, and I am sorry about that. But when 30,000 firefighters are already out there risking everything they have, the last thing any of us should be doing is adding to their workload with fires that could have been prevented. The weather outlook for the next week shows more of the same. Dry conditions across the region, temperatures above normal, afternoon winds picking up, dry thunderstorms possible from the eastern Sierra through Idaho and into Wyoming. Every one of those lightning strikes could start a new fire, and there may not be enough people or equipment available to catch it in time. The one piece of relatively good news is that Arizona is expected to see an increase in wet thunderstorms. These are storms where actual rain falls along with the lightning. That is good for fire suppression in that part of the Southwest. But for the rest of the fire-affected West, the outlook through September is not encouraging. Above normal fire potential is forecast for northern Utah, northern Nevada, northeast California, Oregon, Washington, and Wyoming. This is not a one-week story. We are in the middle of the fire season and the worst months might still be ahead. I want to end by saying something about the people on the ground right now. Close to 30,000 firefighters are out there today. Some of them have been on the line for weeks without going home. They sleep on the ground in fire camps. They eat from field kitchens. They breathe smoke all day and wake up to breathe smoke all over again. They are doing this so that your house, your town, your family can be safe. 2 helicopter pilots died fighting the Widemouth 2 fire in Utah. A heavy equipment operator was killed on the Wrights Spring Fire in Oregon. These are people who went to work and never came home. Their families will never be the same. So when I ask you to check your evacuation zone, pack a go bag, and sign up for alerts, I am not asking you to panic. I'm asking you to respect the reality of what is happening out there. And I am asking you to do the easy things now, so that firefighters do not have to do the hard thing of coming to rescue you later. Check perimetermap.com. Know your zone. Be ready. And share this video with anyone you know in the fire-affected states. They need this information. That is where things stand right now. This situation is changing every single day. I will be back tomorrow with another update covering every major fire, every containment change, and every new development. If this helped you understand what is happening, smash that like button. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update. I want to hear from you. If you are in one of these fire zones right now, drop a comment and tell us what it is like on the ground where you are. How close is the fire to your home? Have you had to evacuate? Your story might help someone else prepare. Stay informed, stay prepared, and stay safe out there. I will see you in the next one.